Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing the sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started.
Hey, y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. And in this episode, I am going to talk to you about the top 10 things I would tell my 30-year-old self. So, my birthday's coming up. I've got a milestone. I am about to turn 40 on November 23rd. And I have been reflecting a lot on the past 10 years. And I think there are some things, particularly for you newer moms, that messages I just hope that you can hear and process and will help you be in a place of peace in ways that I wasn't at 30. But before I do that, I'm going to ask for a birthday present. I am hoping that you can do me the solid of sharing this podcast with anybody that you engage regularly with, your working mom pals. Share it with them. Can you subscribe? Most importantly, can you rate and review us? Because that's what's ultimately going to help the algorithm help us scale. Okay, so moving on to the program at large. Mostly, I'd like to say when I looked back, when I started trying to put pen to paper on what I wanted to share with you, what wisdom I most thought was relevant, I want to say I'm proud. And I hope that no matter what, that's the place that you can be in as well. Because we're going to make mistakes, we're going to fall flat, we're going to do things that really light us up and that deliver great results for our kids, and we're going to do things that we think, well, shit, that just doesn't measure up. But regardless, we're human and there's a lot of growth that comes with it. So my hope for you is that when your 10-year milestone passes, whichever one is next for you, that you look back and you're like, I can be proud and I grew. And that to me is the ultimate success. And when I think about some of my personal successes, I had two beautiful kids and I'm present for them. I have been able to build a house of, as my niece says, your realistic dream home that encourages the lifestyle that I want for my family. I have created a thriving and successful career. And now, in addition to my corporate career, I'm launching a business to help more people and I'm writing and publishing a children's book. That's a big deal. And I've leaned into my purpose and our family mission, which is to experience the world. We have done that by housing an au pair for 5 different years, by taking our boys abroad and showing them different parts of our world and different religions and ethnicities and languages. And I just love this little life that I've built for my family. But to get down to the nitty gritty, so the top 10 things I wish for you to bring you more peace as you navigate your 30s, if you are there. The first is finding peace. So, what I mean by that is how can you lower your expectations so that way you don't feel the pressure to be everything to everybody, to be perfect? Because friend, we are not perfect. We are inherently human, and we extend a lot more grace to other people than we tend to extend to ourselves. So I have done this by, I will say I'm a recovering, like, quasi OCD kind of person, but I've learned to just embrace the clutter that inherently takes over throughout the work week. Or I remember back in my early days where I just felt so pressured to show up to work looking absolutely perfect. And that just doesn't really matter. That level of vanity just doesn't matter. So I've been able to find more time with not actually straightening my hair, just pulling it back in a ponytail. Like those basic things that I have found the past couple years from lowering my standards have made it possible for me to show up for my kids and show up for myself in ways that I never did before. And it's all because I've learned to lower my standards. And then the other thing along that same vein, number two. So I should preface this to say, I was a six-sport varsity athlete, and even in one of a seventh sport, I made it to state in. It's not that I wasn't athletic or did not enjoy working out at one time, but I let this narrative of I'm too busy because of work or I'm too busy because of kids get in my way of prioritizing my own fitness and health first. And that is fundamentally bullshit. I'm going to shoot you straight. It's bullshit. You can prioritize working out. There might be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks that you have to skip some, or maybe it's not as frequently as you want. But to say that you can't fit it in is a narrative you are telling yourself. It can be 10 minutes a day. Like I use Apple Fitness for some of my quicker workouts. 10 minutes, and you can sort by 10-minute workouts. You can sort by the type of workout. If you don't want to get sweaty, you put it on something that you don't like that's lower impact. But the trick here is you have to fit it in first. You have to start your day doing that thing, or you're never going to fit it in. Okay, number three, and this is Mom and Dad, I love you if you're out there. Um, Probably triggering for some of you. My parents are super wise, and I believe that. And I remember growing up, they'd say, one of these days you'll realize we know a lot more than you think you do. And if they know a lot, don't get me wrong. Very, very smart people. I'm blessed to learn from two great examples. But I will say they don't know everything. And as much as I do look to them for advice, I also have to recognize that their reality is very different than my reality, whether it be their life circumstances, where they live, what they value, and what they prioritize for themselves. So that divide of just recognizing I have to be my own adult and make my own decisions and allow myself the space to do that, which also means failing and not feeling the pressure to do things the way they did. Like that's a growing experience for a lot of people because we do put pressure on ourselves to be able to emulate the great things that we got out of the experience of them raising us. And that's a really hard pivot. It certainly was for me. Okay, the next, along the vein of family for some people, is to remove yourself from toxic situations. If there are relationships that aren't serving you, it doesn't matter who they are. If there are roles or bosses or companies that you're a part of that don't serve you, you are an adult. You get to make decisions for yourself. Remove yourself from that situation. So you're in control. Get down with your bad self. Stand up like a boss you are and remove yourself from it. Okay, number 5, play offense in your life. So, what I mean by that is so often women specifically will sit back and just trust that their hard work will pay off and somebody will recognize it. And I know I was like that. If you want a promotion, tell someone, advocate for yourself. If you deserve a raise, tell someone, advocate for yourself. So, as an example, I had a very qualified, very capable, but yet less experienced at the job direct report. He was a male and he made $68,000 more than I did. And he's a direct report. And he had a lot less experience, like materially less on the job relevant experience. And I reported to the CEO. And I just kept thinking, surely the CEO is going to write this because he would say things like, you can't have the compensation conversation with this guy because he makes more. So I'm going to have the conversation. And he never did anything about it. And I just kept hoping and hoping. And guess what? All I did was hope because he wasn't going to do anything about it. I did not advocate for myself. I didn't play offense. So, to the degree that you can take your life into your own hands, you have to be at the driver's seat instead of assuming you can trust your life in somebody else's hands. Along that same vein, don't depend on corporate. Work is not your life. I poured 16 full years into a company only to get laid off. And there was so much of my brand that was tied up in that organization. And I let that happen. And I know that I certainly built my own brand. I showed up with my shoulders back. I did what I knew I needed to do for people to respect me and to want to work with me. But that's very different. Like building my own brand in the context of the company is very different than letting the company become somewhat synonymous with my identity. So don't let yourself depend on corporate and know that it is absolutely unfair to give so much of yourself away because you are completely dispensable to them. You are a number. There is a time and a place where you end up being let go. And as much as I hope that doesn't happen to you, it is far more disruptive when you haven't created the ecosystem around you to support you. It is far more disruptive if you think it won't happen to you. And it is a really, really hard thing to go through if so much of what you do and who you are is tied up in the company. Okay, the next, number 7, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So one of my old bosses used to tell me, and he was the CEO. He used to say, I reported to a couple CEOs, by the way. So, not for anybody that knows me, it's not to say that it was one or the other. But this one used to say, Courtney, I need you to turn down the volume. So every year during my performance reviews, he would say, my wish for you is you have to learn to turn down the volume. You're going at such an unattainable speed. You have young kids at home. You have to be more present for them. You have to learn not to feel like you need to do it all yourself or that you have to do it as well as you do. Like, we get it. You're capable. Turn down the volume. Let somebody else take the reins. Let something break. So that level of that coaching, it took me a while to figure that out. In fact, it took me getting laid off to figure that out. And now I have approached my new job very differently. If something is not directly sponsored, I'm not going to do it. If I don't have permission to do something, or if somebody's not asking me to do something, I'm not going to do it. I have learned how to turn down the volume. So I am showing up and doing a damn good job at what I do, but I'm not doing anything more because I've learned to turn down the volume, like approach this whole thing, this whole career as a career, which means it has to be sustainable. It has to stand the test of time. And that is allowing me a lot more peace at home. It's allowing me the freedom to build this business. So turn down the volume. Okay, number 8, love your partner. It is really easy to find yourself in a parenting rut where you show up more as roommates than you do as partners. I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey. Many of y'all know that I lead culture at a Fortune 50. And because I'm in the culture space, I spend a lot of time in behavior change. So, ergo, huge fan of Stephen Covey. So, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he tells one of his previous clients who was having marital problems they were saying, how do we fix this? He said, it's really simple. Love the other person. It's really it. If you demonstrate love, if you provide acts of love around every corner, then it's going to eventually spark something. You're going to see that person in a completely different way. So in this phase of parenting, particularly with little kids, when you're not easily able to create time for yourselves, love your partner. Like, think about those little acts of service so you don't turn into roommates. You actually continue to keep a living relationship. Number 9, and this has been really hard for me. You're probably going to be disappointed in your friends over time. And I remember growing up, my grandmother and my mom always said, you will be lucky if you have a full handful of quality friends, like the friends that you can call and say, you know what? This is a big deal. I need you to show up. So, and they will count all of them, and they were pretty dry. That, like, I got your back friend and an acquaintance, and even your more quality friends that are a little bit closer than acquaintances. Like, I I feel like I lean in pretty well for my friends. Um, and in fact, it's a value of mine. It's something I prioritize. Like, I will sacrifice myself a lot in the interest of relationships with others. But I've also learned that not everybody values what I do. And some people have struggles that I can't see or cannot keep at the pace that I do, or whatever it may be. But also, as we grow up, people's own immediate families become their priorities. And sometimes they don't know how to do it all. They don't know how to balance having kids and being present at home and still having quality friendships. Or their kids' schedules take over because they're prioritizing, I don't know, club soccer or whatever it may be. But the point being, you're probably going to be disappointed in some of your friends. So to the degree possible, build the life you want at home. And it's not just with your family, like create a space that you can be proud of and that brings you peace and joy because you're probably going to be spending a lot of time there. And I want you to want to be in your house. I want it to feel like a sanctuary for you because it's going to be even harder as your kids age to be able to maintain the same level of friendships that you've had. You just diverge. And I trust me, I don't say that like that one breaks my heart a lot. But it does become a lot harder to show up for each other. Okay. And the last but not least is do things that fill your cup up, not things that drain your energy. So for me, as an example, I love having an intimate conversation with friends. Like, put me at a dinner table with a bottle of wine and some appetizers in a couple hours, and we're going to go real deep and we're going to unpack the meaning of life and we're going to cry a little bit. We're going to laugh a lot. And we are just going to want to hug until the morning rises. That's my jam. I love the intimacy. I hate small chat. So being in crowds, even if it's big groups, like many of you know that I have uh, named my group program Team Mom. So every week, Team Mom comes together as a group and we talk about my program. We talk about some of the problems they're trying to solve for. Well, Team Mom is in nod to Team Fun. So Team Fun is the group, my little group from college. We didn't run around as a group in college, but we did right after, and we have remained really close. Love them dearly. Many of them still unfortunately live in DC, so I don't get to see them as much. But my point about Team Fun is that when we get together as a group, I sometimes struggle, and it's not because they're not my people. They're 100% my people. It's because I really thrive in that one-on-one type setting. So when it was time for me to choose what I wanted to do for my 40th birthday, I threw an epic surprise party for Richard, my husband. But for me, I was like, I want to find one girlfriend and I want to fly our butts to the Caribbean. And I want to sit there with that friend and have a quality visit. And I don't need that high frenetic energy like I did when I was younger. So do things that fill you with energy, not things that drain you. Okay, that's my top 10. I appreciate you tuning in. I would love to hear what you learned. If you're getting close to 40 for yourself, or even in your mid 30s, I would love to hear from you. Like, drop me a line. Let me know what it is that you've learned. So you can reach me at Courtney@workingmomsmovement.com. I would also love, knowing that time is so short, I would love for you, if you haven't already, to download my time wasters guide. So the top 10 time wasters that most people have, I've synthesized that into a guide so you can use that as a lesson to check yourself and say, wow, how much time am I realistically missing out on every single day because I do this one thing? So you can get that at www.workingmomsmovement.com/time dash wasters. I'll drop that link in the show notes. But anyway, once again, if you can do me my absolute birthday wish of sharing this with a friend and then subscribing and rating and reviewing us, I would absolutely adore you. Thank you so much. But until next time, friends, if nobody's told you, you're doing a great job. You've got this, mama.